Hello, book enthusiasts, and welcome to Listen with Best Audiobooks. All our audiobooks are originally written, produced, and narrated by us. We don't reuse or repurpose third-party content. Every script, voice, and edit is made exclusively for this channel. Now, sit back, relax, and let's begin today's audiobook.
Every time something triggers you, an insult, a rude comment, a moment of disrespect, your first impulse is usually the one that leads to regret. That flash of anger, that sudden outburst, that urge to fire back, to explain, to defend, to match their energy. But the truth is, the first reaction is rarely the right one. It's just noise, raw, unfiltered emotion that hasn't been processed yet. You must understand, reaction is a habit. It's not just an emotional release, it's a learned behavior. One that comes from being conditioned to respond instead of reflect. And that habit? It costs you more than you know. It steals your peace, it damages your relationships, it ruins your control, it drags you into fights that never should have existed. The power lies not in reacting, but in observing. Watching the trigger rise inside you, feeling it, breathing through it, holding it, and choosing not to act on it until the emotion settles. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's control. That's self-mastery. When you learn to pause before you respond, you begin to regain control of your life, because in that pause you find freedom. Freedom from being manipulated by others. Freedom from being predictable. Freedom from giving people power over your emotions. Most people don't think, they just react. Something goes wrong, they explode. Someone disrespects them, they lash out. A problem shows up, they panic. They don't respond with wisdom, they respond with emotion. And emotions are fleeting, they're unstable. You can't build a life on reactions, you build it on responses. Responses are calm. Responses are grounded. Responses come from reflection, not impulse, and the difference between those two paths is massive. One leads to chaos, the other leads to control. To take control of your emotions, you have to start by accepting that not everything deserves your energy. Not every comment requires a reply. Not every attack needs a defense. Not every insult is worth acknowledging. You win when you learn how to conserve your energy, not when you spend it proving you're right. You need to become the person who doesn't rise to bait, who doesn't let a few words ruin their peace, who doesn't fall for emotional traps. That doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise. It means you know the cost of being reactive, and you're not willing to pay it anymore. There's power in stillness, in silence, in letting things pass without dragging them into your inner world. You're not obligated to respond to every situation that touches your nerves. You're allowed to walk away, to let it go, to hold your fire. That restraint, that strength, most people will never develop. You don't have to let the world turn you into someone you're not. Just because they're loud doesn't mean you have to be. Just because they're disrespectful doesn't mean you should stoop down. Just because they're reckless doesn't mean you stop being intentional. The strongest people aren't the loudest. They're the calmest, the most grounded, the most in control. They don't react because they don't have to. They've learned how to let things pass. They've built such a strong inner world that the outer chaos can't touch it. This chapter in your life is not about reacting. It's about rising. It's about becoming the kind of person who owns their emotions, not the kind who gets owned by them. You don't need to match anyone's energy. You need to master your own. From this moment on, decide this. Not everything gets access to your emotions. Not every situation deserves your voice. You will protect your peace. You will control your space. And you will respond only when it serves you. Because real power, it's quiet, it's calm, and it never reacts. Chapter 2. Emotional control is a learned discipline. You were not born with emotional control. No one is. It's not something you inherit, it's something you train. Just like building physical strength requires repetition, effort, and resistance, building emotional control requires the same. You grow it over time. You refine it through experience. You earn it through discipline. Most people let their emotions run their lives. They let anger decide what they say. They let fear dictate what they avoid. They let sadness become their identity. They are driven by what they feel instead of what they believe. But that's not control. That's chaos. That's a life ruled by impulse, not intention. If you want power in your life, you must take control of your emotional responses. That starts by understanding that your emotions are not the enemy. They are signals. They're messengers. But they don't get to take the wheel. You can listen to them without obeying them. You can feel them without being controlled by them. Emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel deeply, but you choose how and when to respond. It means you experience the full range of emotions without letting them drag you in directions you never intended to go. The key to building that control is awareness. You have to become the observer of your emotions, not just a passenger in them. You have to notice your triggers. You have to feel the anger rising and name it. You have to catch the fear when it creeps in and pause. You have to recognize when you're slipping into reaction mode and breathe. Awareness gives you space, and in that space you regain your power. That space is the difference between saying something you regret and walking away with your dignity. It's the difference between reacting like a child and responding like a leader. That space is where your life shifts. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need discipline. The discipline to pause. The discipline to walk away when your ego wants to argue. The discipline to stay calm when your pride is screaming. The discipline to speak slowly when your anger wants to shout. Discipline is uncomfortable. It will feel unnatural at first. You will want to break. You will want to go back to what's familiar, snapping, defending, fighting. But if you stay with it, you will build something few people ever have: inner strength. The kind of strength that doesn't flinch when things go wrong. The kind that doesn't fold under pressure. The kind that can carry peace in a storm, silence in conflict, patience in chaos. That's what discipline gives you, and it doesn't come overnight. It's a practice. It's a muscle. You train it daily, through the small tests, the ordinary conflicts, the moments when no one is watching. Every time you choose calm over reaction, you get stronger. Every time you take a breath instead of throwing words, you build more control. That's how you grow. Eventually, your emotional control becomes your identity. You're no longer someone who tries to stay calm. You are calm. You're no longer someone who manages anger. You are unshakable. And people feel it. They notice it. They respect it. Because emotional control is rare. And anything rare becomes powerful. Chapter 3. Emotional maturity begins with ownership. Emotional control is impossible without emotional ownership. You can't master what you blame on others. You can't grow from what you avoid. And you can't transform yourself if you keep assigning your reactions to external triggers. Taking ownership of your emotions means accepting full responsibility for how you respond, regardless of who or what triggered you. That doesn't mean people aren't disrespectful. That doesn't mean situations aren't unfair. It means you understand that while you can't control what happens around you, you are fully in charge of what happens within you. Emotional immaturity screams, blames, deflects. It says things like, "You made me angry," "You ruined my day," or "I snapped because they pushed me." But that's not power. That's permission. And every time you give someone else permission to control your emotions, you lose a piece of yourself. Emotional maturity is quiet. It takes a breath and says, "I didn't like that, but I'm still in control." It acknowledges the trigger, but doesn't surrender to it. It chooses the long-term win over the short-term explosion. It understands that every reaction is a decision, and that decision reflects who you are becoming. When you take ownership, you move from victim to leader. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is just emotional and start becoming someone who is composed, centered, grounded. You stop making excuses. You start making adjustments. Taking ownership is humbling. It forces you to look in the mirror and admit that your anger isn't just about others. It's about the stories you're telling yourself. It forces you to admit that your anxiety isn't just about what might happen. It's about how little trust you have in your own ability to respond. It shows you that the emotions you project outward are often a reflection of something unresolved within. But this is not about blame. It's about power. Because when you take full responsibility for your emotions, you get your power back. You no longer depend on people behaving a certain way for you to be at peace. You no longer rely on circumstances being perfect for you to feel stable. You become self-sufficient. You become unshakable. That doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you lead your feelings instead of following them. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You set the tone. You hold the line. You carry your energy with discipline, not emotion. And when you begin to live this way, everything changes. Relationships improve because you're no longer reacting to everything. Opportunities open up because you respond with clarity instead of chaos. Your confidence grows because you're no longer ashamed of your emotional patterns. You've outgrown them. This doesn't happen overnight. Ownership is a practice. Some days you'll get it wrong. You'll react. You'll slip. That's okay. Ownership also means not hiding from your mistakes. You recognize them. You learn from them. You move forward with more awareness than before. Eventually, your default response becomes calm. You still feel the trigger, but you don't hand over your power. You feel the heat rise, but you don't let it boil over. You pause. You choose. You lead. That's growth. That's maturity. That's self-mastery. And people will notice. They'll see the shift. Not because you told them, but because they can't shake you like they used to. You're no longer reactive. You're no longer defensive. You're steady. You're intentional. You're in control. Because you took ownership. And once you own your emotions, you own your life. Chapter 4. Detachment is strength, not indifference. There is a powerful kind of calm that comes from detachment. It's not about being cold or emotionless. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about refusing to let your emotions be controlled by everything and everyone around you. Detachment is not the absence of feeling. It's the mastery of it. You see, emotional control doesn't mean you suppress what you feel. It means you create space between what happens and how you respond. That space is where detachment lives. That space is your power. It's the difference between reacting on impulse and responding with intention. When you're too attached to outcomes, to people's opinions, to situations beyond your control, you suffer. You get pulled into emotional chaos every time something doesn't go your way. You lose peace every time someone else has a bad day. You feel shaken every time life doesn't match your expectations. But when you're detached, you remain stable. You still feel things deeply, but you're not controlled by them. You understand that your emotions are real, but they don't have to rule your life. You learn to observe, reflect, and let go, without needing to prove, chase, or react. Detachment gives you space to see clearly. When you're too close, too emotionally invested, everything feels personal. Every comment cuts deep. Every rejection feels like failure. But when you step back, you realize most of it has nothing to do with you. People's actions are often reflections of their own inner world, not yours. You begin to see the world differently. You stop needing everyone to like you. You stop craving constant affirmation. You stop fighting for control in situations that don't deserve your energy. You let go, and in that letting go, you gain power. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care from a place of strength, not desperation. It means you can love someone deeply without needing to control them. It means you can work toward a goal passionately without being crushed if the outcome changes. It means you can stay grounded even when everything around you shifts. The more detached you become, the more unshakable you are. You don't get pulled into arguments that don't matter. You don't get drained by things you can't change. You move with a calm certainty that confuses people who are still reacting to everything. You stop being a puppet to the world. You become the one holding the strings. Not in a manipulative way, but in a controlled, peaceful way. You choose when to act. You choose how to feel. You choose where to place your energy. That's what detachment gives you. It's not a wall, it's a filter. A boundary that protects your inner world. You begin to say, "This doesn't serve me," and let it pass. You begin to say, "This is not mine to carry," and put it down. You begin to stop trying to fix, explain, or chase, and you begin to breathe, trust, and let be. Detachment is one of the highest forms of emotional intelligence. It's where you stop trying to change the world and start changing your response to it. It's where you stop expecting people to be who you need and accept them for who they are. It's where you find peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped needing it to be. And in that peace, you become powerful. You walk slower. You speak less. You observe more. And you react only when it's worth it. That is the power of detachment. Not cold, not numb, but wise, strong, and deeply, deeply calm. Chapter 5. The trigger is yours, not theirs. Every time something triggers you, it's easy to point the finger outward. That comment, that look, that decision, that person. You tell yourself, "They triggered me." But the truth, the trigger was already inside you. They just pressed it. That's the hard truth most people avoid. It's easier to blame the outside than to look inside. But growth doesn't happen through blame. It happens through responsibility. And emotional power comes when you stop giving everyone else the remote control to your reactions. A trigger is not the event, it's your interpretation of it. It's the meaning you assign to what happened. It's the story your mind tells when something touches an old wound, a hidden fear, or a buried insecurity. That's why two people can experience the same moment and one feels fine while the other falls apart. It's not about what happened, it's about what it awoke within. If you want to master emotional control, you must stop trying to avoid being triggered and start learning from what triggers you. Because every trigger is a teacher. It's not there to break you. It's there to show you where you're still fragile, where you still haven't healed, where you still need to grow. When something or someone triggers you, ask yourself, what inside me just got activated? Is it rejection? Is it fear? Is it a need to be right? A need to be liked? A wound from the past that I thought was gone? This is deep work. It requires honesty, not performance, not pride, real self-awareness. The willingness to admit, this isn't about them, this is about me. And when you take that approach, your entire world changes. You stop trying to control everything around you. You start managing what's within you. You stop fighting people and start understanding yourself. You stop avoiding discomfort and start using it to rise. You can't heal what you avoid, and you can't master what you blame. So use your triggers as mirrors. Let them show you the parts of yourself that still need attention, not judgment, not shame, just honest attention. You're not weak because you get triggered. You're human. But if you want to evolve, you must become responsible for those reactions. You must slow them down, examine them, and work through them, not by suppressing them, but by listening to them, understanding them, and then choosing not to let them drive your behavior. This doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you respond to it with clarity, not chaos. It means you hold your ground without losing your head. It means you stop giving other people the power to emotionally hijack you with a few words or actions. When you reclaim your triggers, you reclaim your peace. Because now your mood isn't dictated by someone else's behavior. Your energy isn't controlled by the environment. Your focus isn't shaken by petty distractions. You become grounded, rooted, centered. And from that place, you can lead. You can love without fear. You can walk into any room without needing approval. You can face challenges without collapsing, because the triggers don't control you anymore. You've learned how to sit with them, learn from them, and move through them. Now the next time something stirs you up, pause, not to avoid the feeling, but to acknowledge it, to study it, and then to take back your power by choosing your next move with clarity, not emotion. That's where emotional control becomes emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, that's your edge. Chapter 6. Calm is a superpower. In a world addicted to speed, noise, and reaction, calm is rare, and anything rare becomes valuable. Calm isn't weakness. Calm isn't passivity. Calm is strength. It's the ability to hold your ground when everything around you tries to shake it. It's the ability to stay still when the world demands chaos. It's the clearest sign of emotional control. Think about the moments when people lose their power. It's rarely because they lacked skill or opportunity. It's usually because they lost their composure. They let a moment of frustration undo years of progress. They let a few words trigger a storm inside them, one careless reaction, and their energy scattered. Their focus vanished, their purpose derailed. But those who remain calm, even under pressure, are different. They see more. They think clearer. They move with precision instead of panic. Their silence speaks louder than outbursts. Their pause is more powerful than noise, and that calm presence, that's what creates influence. That's what commands respect. Calm is not something you turn on, it's something you cultivate. It starts by mastering the breath. When tension rises, the breath shortens, the heart races, the voice sharpens. But if you can breathe deeply in the heat of the moment, you reclaim control. You anchor yourself. You tell your nervous system, we're safe, we're focused, we're not reacting. Then, from that breath, you gain space. The space between stimulus and response. The space to choose instead of react. That space is your leverage. That's where you move from survival mode into strategy mode. People will test you. Life will throw sharp edges. Stress will come, but your response determines whether it cuts you or sharpens you. And calm is your shield. It's how you rise above the fight without losing the fire. It's how you win without stepping into the chaos. Being calm doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you're strong enough to feel everything and still stay in control. It means you don't let your emotions run the show. You acknowledge them. You respect them, but you don't surrender to them. You begin to move like a mountain, grounded, solid, immovable. You don't explain yourself every time. You don't need to win every argument. You don't chase closure from people who can't give it. You know who you are. You know your mission, and anything that doesn't serve it is met with silence. Not out of fear, but out of focus. This calm doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It comes from mastering yourself, from knowing that your energy is too valuable to waste on petty reactions, from knowing that peace is not the absence of pressure, it's the ability to stay centered within it. When you become calm, you become untouchable, because no one can force a reaction out of you. No one can manipulate your emotions. No one can throw you off your path unless you let them in. That's the power most people never develop. Not because they can't, but because they never practice it. They think calm comes after the storm. But in reality, calm is what helps you move through it without losing yourself. So the next time life rises up to challenge your composure, meet it with stillness. Let your breath lead. Let your awareness expand. Let your silence speak. Because the one who remains calm is the one who always wins. Chapter 7. Emotion is temporary, but consequences are not. Your emotions can feel overwhelming. They come fast. They come loud. They flood your mind, tighten your chest, and demand immediate action. But here's what you must remember. Emotions are temporary. They rise, they peak, they pass. But what you do during that peak, that can last forever. Every reaction you make from a place of unchecked emotion has the potential to create lasting damage. Words spoken in anger, decisions made in fear, relationships broken in frustration. These consequences don't leave with the emotion, they stay, they leave marks, they shape outcomes, and sometimes they close doors you'll never open again. That's why emotional control isn't just about inner peace, it's about protecting your future. Every time you pause before reacting, you give yourself a chance to avoid a permanent mistake caused by a temporary feeling. This doesn't mean you suppress what you feel. It means you recognize that emotion is a wave, and all waves pass. If you can ride the wave without acting on it, you'll reach a place of clarity. And from that place, your actions become intentional, not emotional. They become powerful, not reactive. Think of the damage done in the world, in families, in careers, because someone couldn't wait 5 minutes. Because someone didn't take a breath. Because someone reacted at the height of their emotion. Those 5 minutes, that one deep breath, that moment of pause, it could have changed everything. When you understand this, you stop chasing emotional release. You start choosing emotional responsibility. You realize that your actions carry weight, that your energy affects others, that your voice can hurt or heal, that your silence can either protect or punish, and you begin to move with care, not fear but awareness. You begin to ask yourself, will this matter tomorrow? Will this action reflect my values or just my anger? Am I making a decision from the version of me I want to be, or the version of me that I'm trying to outgrow? Emotional control means slowing down, not because you're weak, but because you're wise, because you understand that anything done in haste often brings regret, and anything done in calm has the power to create alignment. You've already felt the sting of reacting too fast. You know what it feels like to wish you could take something back. So let that memory become your discipline. Let it be your reminder. Don't move until your mind is clear. Don't speak until your heart is steady. Don't decide until your emotion has passed through you, not over you. When you live this way, you build something few people ever reach: self-trust. You begin to trust yourself in pressure, in conflict, in stress, because you've proven to yourself that you won't break, that you won't act from the storm, that you'll wait for the calm, and then move with purpose. People will still try to trigger you. Life will still test you. But now, you won't respond from the high. You'll respond from the depth. You'll stop reacting in ways that damage your peace, and you'll start choosing in ways that protect your power. Because your emotions are temporary, but your next move, that can shape your entire life. Choose wisely. Chapter 8: Pause is Power. There's a moment right between the trigger and the reaction where everything can change. A moment so small, so quiet, that most people miss it. But that pause, that single breath, that is where your real power lives. When something provokes you, when emotions rise, words press against your lips, hands tighten, heart pounds, your instinct is to react, to defend, to explain, to strike back. But what if you didn't? What if you paused? The pause is not avoidance. It's not weakness. It's the moment you reclaim your mind from your emotion. It's the gap between impulse and intention. It's where wisdom interrupts habit. It's where growth interrupts history. And that interruption, that pause, that's everything. The pause allows space for perspective. It gives you room to ask, what's really happening here? Is this worth my energy? Is this about now, or is this about something old that still hasn't healed? Without the pause, you're just a reaction machine. A trigger goes off, and you follow the script. You get offended, you get angry, You speak before thinking, you decide before breathing. But with the pause, you choose, you evaluate, you respond, not from the emotion, but from clarity. This is the difference between repeating your past and creating a new future. The more you train yourself to pause, the more you start leading your life instead of being dragged by it. You stop becoming a victim of your emotions. You stop being at the mercy of the moment. You start becoming intentional. You start living with control. And it only takes a second, one breath, one step back, one moment to say, I'll respond, but not yet. That delay doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It gives you access to strength most people never tap into. The strength to say nothing when the noise begs you to speak. The strength to walk away when ego begs you to fight. The strength to stay grounded when the world spins. The pause lets you conserve energy. You no longer waste it on battles that don't matter. You no longer drain yourself explaining things to people who don't listen. You no longer lose your focus because of someone else's drama. Instead, you protect your peace. You sharpen your awareness. You carry your presence into every room without needing to dominate it. That's what the pause teaches you, that real power is quiet, measured, strategic. With time, the pause becomes your habit, not silence that avoids, but silence that decides, not silence that fears, but silence that understands. You learn to wait, not out of hesitation, but out of intention. Because when you pause, you gather yourself. You align with your highest self. You choose response over reaction. You rise above the situation without getting tangled in it. So, the next time your emotions demand you act fast, pause, take the breath, hold the moment, let the energy settle, and then move, not from impulse but from strength. Because in that pause, you don't just gain control, you become it. Chapter 9, Protecting Your Peace is a daily practice. Peace isn't something you find once and keep forever. It's not a destination. It's not a single decision. It's a daily discipline, a moment-by-moment commitment to yourself that says, I will not let the world pull me out of alignment today. Every day, you will be tested. People will challenge your patience. Unexpected problems will arise. You'll see things, hear things, feel things that stir up old emotions. That's normal. Life is not silent. Life is loud. But your peace doesn't have to depend on life being quiet. Your peace comes from choosing not to let the noise inside. This is where the discipline lives, not just in managing others, but in managing yourself. Because protecting your peace means making daily decisions about where your energy goes, what you respond to, who you give your attention to, what thoughts you allow to live in your mind, what emotions you feed, and which ones you starve. You can't afford to give your peace away freely. Every time you respond to drama, you pay with your energy. Every time you chase closure, argue with fools, try to fix what's not yours to fix, you pay. And the cost is always your clarity, your focus, your alignment. So you must learn to say no, not just to people, but to thoughts, reactions, environments, and even versions of yourself that no longer serve you. You must learn to walk away from anything that threatens your inner calm, even if it once felt normal, even if others don't understand, because the longer you stay in chaos, the more it becomes you. Protecting your peace means creating boundaries, clear ones, strong ones, and sticking to them, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it disappoints people, because your peace is not up for negotiation. It's not a luxury, it's a foundation. Without it, you can't build, you can't lead, you can't grow. Some people won't like the new you who protects their peace. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're cold. But the truth is, you've simply stopped allowing access to your energy without intention. You've stopped bleeding time and attention into places that left you empty. And in return, you feel stronger, calmer, sharper, because your energy is no longer scattered. It's contained, directed, controlled. This doesn't mean you don't feel things. It means you choose not to be ruled by those feelings. It means you move with care. That your silence is chosen, not forced. That your space is sacred, not isolated. You learn to take care of your inner world the same way you protect your home. You don't leave the doors wide open for anyone to walk through. You're selective, intentional. You protect what's inside. And on the days when it gets hard, when emotions run high, when the world feels overwhelming, return to the basics. Breathe deeply. Move slowly. Speak only when necessary. Respond only when grounded. Disconnect to recharge. Reconnect with yourself. Because peace isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of awareness. It's the practice of catching yourself before you slip, of honoring your boundaries before they're tested, of choosing what's worth your energy and what's not. This is how you live with power, not by controlling others, but by mastering your own response to the world, one moment at a time, one breath at a time, one choice at a time. Chapter 10. Responding from vision, not emotion. When you react emotionally, you give power to the moment. But when you respond from vision, you take power from the moment and direct it toward your future. Too often, people make decisions based on how they feel right now, not on where they want to be later. They choose the argument instead of the outcome, the fight instead of the focus, the ego instead of the elevation. But you weren't built to live in reaction. You were built to move with purpose. Your vision must become stronger than your emotion. That means you don't let temporary feelings decide permanent directions. It means when you're triggered, you don't ask, "What do I feel like doing?" You ask, "What does my future self need me to do?" This is the difference between living aimlessly and living with alignment. Emotion pulls you sideways. Vision pulls you forward. Emotion is based on the moment. Vision is based on the mission. Emotion is about comfort. Vision is about transformation. When you live by vision, you start filtering your responses through a deeper lens. You begin asking, does this reaction align with who I'm becoming? Is this response building something, or just feeding my ego? Will this decision bring peace, or just temporary satisfaction? And with those questions, you begin to slow down. You begin to lead yourself. You stop chasing short-term relief and start committing to long-term results. This takes maturity. It takes control. It takes the willingness to feel an emotion, but not let it dictate your next move. It means sitting in discomfort, not running from it. It means delaying gratification, not indulging every urge. It means carrying yourself as the person you're becoming, not the person you've always been. When you live with vision, your actions become cleaner, more refined, less chaotic. Because now, you're not reacting to everything. You're building something. You're designing your day, choosing your responses, aligning your energy. And people will feel the difference. You'll no longer be seen as someone who's easily provoked. You'll be seen as someone who's deeply rooted, calm, strategic, powerful. Not because you never feel, but because you never let feelings steer the wheel. Your vision gives you standards, boundaries, principles, and you begin living by them, everywhere, every day, not just when it's easy, especially when it's not. So the next time your emotions rise, pause and ask yourself, if the best version of me were making this decision right now, what would they do? Would they speak? Would they walk away? Would they keep building in silence? The answer is always within you. You just have to get quiet enough to hear it, and then disciplined enough to follow it. Because when you live from vision, you don't just react, you lead. You move with clarity. You respond with intention. You walk in alignment. And that's when everything starts to shift. Chapter 11, Mastering the Art of Emotional Distance. Sometimes the best response is no response. Not because you don't care, but because you've learned how to protect your inner space. You've come to understand that not everything deserves a reaction. Not everyone deserves access to your energy, and not every moment requires your involvement. This is the art of emotional distance, the skill of stepping back instead of jumping in, the strength to detach, not out of fear or avoidance, but out of wisdom and restraint. Emotional distance doesn't mean disconnection, it means clarity. It means you've stopped confusing presence with engagement. You can be present in a situation without being consumed by it. You can listen without absorbing, observe without reacting, witness without being pulled in. When you master emotional distance, you become less affected by the chaos around you. You stop being drawn into arguments. You stop letting someone else's bad day become your burden. You stop allowing external noise to shape your internal state. You begin to hold space instead of filling it. You become the calm in the storm, not by changing the storm, but by refusing to be moved by it. This level of control doesn't make you cold, it makes you powerful. It means you understand that emotions are contagious, and you no longer allow others to infect your energy with theirs. You remain grounded, no matter how much the ground around you shakes. You learn how to step back mentally before you step in physically. You pause. You check in with yourself. You ask, is this my battle? Is this the best use of my energy? Will engaging here serve my peace or steal it? Most of the time you'll find the answer is silence, not avoidance, alignment. With emotional distance, you don't run from conflict. You just don't chase it either. You stop trying to fix people who don't want change. You stop justifying your boundaries. You stop explaining your peace. This shift creates a new kind of presence. You speak less, but when you do, it matters. You move less, but every step has weight. People start to notice that you don't flinch anymore, that you don't react on cue, that you don't engage in small games. And that presence, that quiet control, it intimidates the insecure, it disarms the reactive, and it frees you. Because now you're no longer fighting to be understood. You've understood yourself. You're no longer looking for control in the world. You've found it within. You've mastered the space between feeling and action. And in that space, you've found peace. Emotional distance is a daily practice. It requires awareness. It requires discipline. But most of all, it requires a decision. Every day to choose your growth over their drama, your peace over their chaos, your vision over their opinion. And when you live from that place, the world can still move, but you won't be moved with it. You remain steady, clear, unshaken, because the greatest power is not in how loud you speak, but in how little you need to say. Chapter 12. Emotional control isn't suppression, it's direction. Emotional control is often misunderstood. People assume it means shutting your feelings down, that it's about being cold, distant, or disconnected. But real emotional control isn't about feeling less, it's about directing what you feel with purpose. You were designed to feel anger, sadness, frustration, joy, fear. They all exist for a reason. They're not the problem. The problem begins when you let those emotions lead you blindly, when you let them dictate your words, your choices, your tone, your direction. That's not control, that's chaos, wearing a disguise. Suppressing emotions doesn't make you strong. It stores pain inside of you, and pain that's stored but not processed always leaks out through tension, through stress, through bitterness, through burnout. You might not react today, but one small trigger tomorrow can bring all of it crashing out. That's why emotional control is not about bottling things up. It's about processing them, understanding them, and choosing where to channel them. You don't silence your anger. You understand it. You don't hide your sadness. You sit with it. You don't deny your fear. You face it and move through it. That's what mature emotional control looks like, the ability to carry intense feelings without being overtaken by them. When you learn how to redirect your emotions, you begin to use them as fuel instead of fire. Your anger can become focus. Your pain can become purpose. Your fear can become awareness. Your grief can become gratitude. But that shift doesn't happen by chance. It happens by choice. It happens when you get honest about how you feel. Not in front of the world, but within yourself. It happens when you create space to pause, reflect, and breathe before you act. It happens when you build the habit of asking yourself, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Where can I direct it in a way that builds instead of breaks? That's where real strength lives. Not in how much emotion you can hide, but in how well you can hold it, direct it, and move through it without letting it break your balance. You'll have days when it's harder, moments when the weight feels too much. And that's okay. You're not meant to be perfect. You're meant to be present, to stay in the process, to continue learning the rhythm of your mind and body, to get better at catching your emotional shifts, identifying them, and turning them into aligned action. This kind of mastery doesn't shout, it doesn't show off, it moves quietly, it breathes deeply, it responds slowly, it walks away when needed, it speaks with intention, it acts with clarity. So the next time the pressure builds, remember, your goal isn't to avoid feeling, it's to feel fully but act wisely. It's to experience emotion, but express it on your own terms. It's to let it rise, but not let it rule. And the more you practice this, the more peace you'll carry. Because your power doesn't come from avoiding the storm. It comes from learning how to move through it without losing who you are. Chapter 13. Emotional freedom is built on internal validation. The moment you stop depending on others for emotional reassurance is the moment you begin to reclaim your freedom. Because as long as you need external validation to feel okay, you'll always be emotionally vulnerable. You'll be chasing approval instead of peace. You'll be reacting to every comment, every glance, every silence, looking for evidence that you matter. But emotional control starts with knowing who you are, without needing the world to confirm it. Internal validation is the foundation. It means you know your worth even when no one claps. You know your path even when others question it. You know your truth even when others misunderstand it. You carry your value with you instead of waiting for someone to hand it to you. Most people don't struggle because they're not capable. They struggle because they've built their emotional world around others, around being seen, around being liked, around being understood. But the truth is, your peace will never be stable if it depends on someone else's perception. Because people change. Their moods shift. Their opinions are filtered through their own pain and preferences. And if your self-worth rises and falls with their behavior, you'll never be free. You'll always be on edge, wondering what they meant, what they think, if they approve. That's not peace. That's performance. Freedom begins when you stop performing. When you stop needing applause, when you stop chasing closure, when you stop adjusting your emotions based on the temperature of the room, you start asking yourself instead, what do I know to be true about me, about my effort, about my growth, about my intention? And you let that truth steady you. Internal validation means you're no longer moved by compliments or crushed by criticism. You're grateful for both, but dependent on neither. You're grounded in something deeper, your own reflection, your own standard, your own awareness of the work you've done silently, patiently, and consistently. This doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you solid, because now your emotions aren't dictated by who gives you attention or who withholds it. They're guided by the alignment between your values and your actions. You'll still feel. You'll still have moments of doubt. Moments where you hope someone understands, but the difference is, you won't collapse if they don't. You'll keep walking anyway, because your validation lives inside you now, not outside. And that inner foundation is what allows you to respond with grace when others disrespect you, to walk away from situations that no longer fit, to say no without guilt, to protect your energy without apology. Because you're no longer begging for belonging. You've already come home to yourself. That's emotional freedom, not the absence of emotion, but the presence of inner authority. The strength to feel everything but not be ruled by anything. And the more you practice this, the more unbothered you become. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand. Your worth isn't up for negotiation. Your peace isn't on the table, and your emotions, they're no longer a game. Others get to play. Chapter 14. The emotionally strong don't prove. They move. The emotionally reactive try to win the moment. The emotionally strong win their life. When someone disrespects them, they don't shout. They choose silence. When they're misunderstood, they don't rush to defend. They let clarity come with time. When their value is doubted, they don't argue. They deliver. That's emotional strength. Not in showing the world how loud you can be, but in showing yourself how grounded you've become. Proving is a sign of insecurity. Needing to be seen, heard, understood at all times. It comes from a place of uncertainty, but when you've truly done the work, when your mind is stable, when your peace is non-negotiable, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Because you understand, energy spent proving is energy not spent progressing. Trying to prove yourself only drains you. You explain, you argue, you replay the same situations in your head. And still, most people won't understand you the way you wish they would. That's not because you're not clear, it's because their perception has nothing to do with your truth. At some point, the emotionally mature learn to stop over-explaining, to stop seeking approval, to stop trying to be seen by people who refuse to see. And in that stopping, they move forward, they move inward, they move in silence, they move with focus. And the more they move, the less they need permission. They start building so consistently that their results begin to speak. And when results speak, arguments end. Because progress is the loudest response, and peace is the clearest proof of strength. This doesn't mean you won't ever feel the need to explain yourself. You will, especially when you've been misunderstood. Especially when your integrity is questioned. But the stronger you grow, the less you feed that impulse. You recognize that your time, your energy, your voice, they're valuable, and you use them with intention. So the next time you're pulled into a situation where your instinct is to defend, pause, ask yourself, will this matter in a week, in a year? Will explaining myself help, or will it simply entangle me in someone else's chaos? And most times you'll realize the best response is movement. Quiet, focused, forward movement. You don't need to prove. You don't need to announce. You don't need to convince. You just need to move. Let your actions speak what words never could. Let your presence carry a message that explanation can't deliver. Let your progress silence the noise. Because the emotionally strong don't win through volume. They win through vision. They don't fight to be seen. They rise until they can't be ignored. Chapter 15. Emotional control is self-respect in action. Emotional control is not just a skill, it's a reflection of how much you respect yourself. Because when you truly value your peace, your growth, your energy, you stop giving other people the power to control your reactions. You stop being available to every distraction, every provocation, every emotional pull that pulls you off balance. Self-respect doesn't shout. It doesn't defend itself constantly. It doesn't feel the need to prove anything. It simply walks in quiet confidence. And that's what emotional control looks like when it's fully formed. It becomes second nature. You no longer have to think twice about protecting your peace. You just do it. Automatically. Unapologetically. At this point, your silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Your restraint is not fear, it's focus. Your calm is not forced, it's who you've become. You've walked through every chapter of your emotional evolution. You've learned to pause, to detach, to lead with vision, to observe your triggers without letting them guide your actions. You've discovered the space between reaction and response, and you've built your life in that space. And now you see clearly, emotional control isn't about being perfect. It's about being responsible. It's not about always having the right words. It's about knowing when silence is louder. It's not about avoiding all conflict. It's about deciding which ones are worth it. You no longer chase closure. You no longer beg to be understood. You don't rise to every challenge. You don't swing at every insult. You conserve your power. You guard your energy. You make your presence a decision, not a reaction. And because of that, you move different now. You carry stillness in stressful moments. You carry patience where there used to be pressure. You carry clarity where there used to be confusion. Because emotional control has changed your posture. It has upgraded your standards. It has rewired the way you respond to life. You've become someone who no longer gives access to the old triggers. Someone who no longer responds just to be heard. Someone who no longer sacrifices inner peace for temporary pride. This is what self-respect looks like. It's in how you choose your words. It's in how you walk away when your ego wants to fight. It's in how you stay still when chaos invites you to collapse. It's in how you hold your power when everyone else has lost theirs. And most of all, it's in how you keep choosing yourself. Even when it's not easy. Even when it's not loud. Even when no one notices but you. Because emotional control isn't for applause. It's for freedom. It's for alignment. It's for peace that can't be stolen, because it wasn't built on anyone else. So as this journey closes, let this truth stay with you. You don't need to control the world. You just need to master how you move through it. And once you do, you become untouchable.